What?
We're on.
Oh, we're good. We're ready. Oh, yeah. Jeremy's here. Oh, you mean the other chat? Got it.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to
Oh, wait. Hold on.
order.
Not yet. He's talking. Jeremy's on the phone.
He's on. We're on.
We're on.
Yeah.
So organized.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Commission on Aging Well. First, we'll take a look at the draft minutes. After reviewing the draft minutes, are there any additions or corrections? If not, do I hear a motion for approval?
I would move to approve as submitted. Second.
Okay, it's moved and approved. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the draft minutes are now the official minutes. We have no public appearances, so we'll move right on to our first agenda item, which is a transportation update. We have with us today our mayor, Julia Radefrada.
And I just, real quickly,
yes.
Because Chris has to get down to work, if that's okay, Mayor, I want to introduce Chris Towers, our nutrition site assistant. And Chris has been with us 3 weeks? Yeah, and I know you're not on. You could come up and sit in that chair if you just want to introduce yourself. But as some of you know, the Fitchburg Senior Center Friends is paying for Chris for this year to be in the kitchen 15 to 20 hours a week. And she's wonderful. So if you just want to say a few words.
My name is Chris. I have lived in Fitchburg for the past 5 years, and I'm super excited to be in this role and to be chosen for it. I actually worked temporarily with taxes in January, and I'm super excited to see this position.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thank Chris for being here, and she's down in the kitchen regularly Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8:30 to 1:30. So I just wanted, this is the Commission on Aging. So thanks for stopping up. All right. Okay, May.
Okay.
I would note that there's an observable difference already
With her.
Chris's involvement.
Yeah, I agree. She does a great job. So, okay, Mayor, I didn't mean to bump you. All right. Thank you for coming, Mayor.
Okay, so what do you want me to share some of? Okay.
Just updates about
Okay.
where the city is with transportation. I know there's money set aside for studies and just kind of that.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to your meeting. I am, the mayor of the city for a year, and yes, the city is working with a couple of, we have a couple of initiatives for public transportation, but there are a couple of, regarding the senior center, as you know. Last year in the 2024 budget, I included $7,200 for, for additional, what it called, 1 second. It was for the supplemental transportation from the senior center for 12 hours for service monthly, okay? So I know that it wasn't too much, but at least, we started with $7,200 and we have more capacity in future budgets. We can increase that amount. There is the funding for the traffic study or the traffic safety analysis is also planned to be done for 2025, for the senior center. There is money assigned for that with ARPA funds. And then there is a capital improvement project for $80,000 for a transit shuttle that is also for 2025. So that one is specifically, transportation for the senior center. As a city, we are working with the Madison Metro. As you know, you have seen in the news, the BRT is coming to Fitchburg in a couple of years. We are working the north and south route. It's a huge investment. It's going to come through Fish Hatchery Corridor, and so currently, it's gonna end at Maquis, but we are trying to see if we can get additional funding to expand it to O'Shero Drive, so we can connect it with the Civic Campus or to Lacey. But the initial project is right now up to Maquis. What we're trying to do is, that corridor is going to increase, the transit in that very traffic corridor, and also for us, we can also have access to, Madison downtown, the university, and also with all the connection, we can go even to the airport. So that one is a big project that is funded mostly by federal grants, and also for some funding for the city of Fitchburg and the city of Madison. The funding for the city of Fitchburg we are using because as you know, the fish hatchery corridor is under a tax incremental district. So the funding is the infrastructure and the cost for that project in the fish hatchery corridor, we are going to put it under that incremental tax district. So that one, we are fortunate that we have that district there, and we can allocate those costs to that tax incremental district. And the other thing that the city is working now too with Madison Metro, and it's going to be part, I don't know, you receive a referendum survey, I imagine. In that referendum, it was a question to you about public transportation. And the idea is that the city is working with Madison Metro to get some, to determine how much it's going to cost to improve the intra-city transit in the city. What is this? We have the town, we absorb the town of Madison, Southdale, that is in the northeast corner of the city, and is totally disconnected from all of this area, where we have the senior center, the library, and the civic campus. So, and also we need to connect that area of the city, the east with the west, and the north and south. We have a lot of people that they have issue, and you can see you want to attract more seniors to come to the senior center. One of the issues that we have noticed is the lack of transportation, connectivity between some part of the city with this area. So this is where we're working internally. The city administrator is working with Madison Metro to determine how much it's going to cost to do that connectivity intra-transit, and also how the routes are going to be expanded, so we can have this, we can connect the city, specifically this area with the rest of the city. We got some numbers, and they're coming high, but the idea is that if the referendum, the council hasn't determined yet if we are going to a referendum. We already received all of the survey results. The consultants are compiling all the information and the results. Those results are going to be made public April 24. They are going to come. They're going to present the final result to the council on April 24, and then the council in May will determine what to do, if we are going to a referendum or not. So if we are going to a referendum, part of that referendum is going to includes allocate some money for public transportation, because, for this council, it's very important that we continue investing in public transportation in the city. Some people always complain, but I can see the buses in Fitchburg that are empty. Yeah, because we are at the end of the route, okay? So you will see that, the buses coming to Fitchburg, maybe they're going to be empty because, we are at the end of some of those routes. So, but the idea is we have BRT and we have vector connectivity, maybe people can start using more public transportation. So this is the plan for now that we are working. It's going to be critical for us if we go to a referendum, that referendum passes, because otherwise, I want to be honest with you, 2025 is going to be very, very challenging for us. So that one is because not only we are looking for public transportation, we have, serious staffing issue in the city. And if we don't invest in that, the growth and the pace of the city in the last 10 years has been higher than the growth of our resources, and also inflation and the cost of things has been higher than the percentage that we can increase our revenue in the city. Because our revenue growth are limited by the levy limit, that is a net construction percentage. And we have been very fortunate in the city of Fitchburg because we have been growing, as you can see, but that growth is 3%. And inflation 2 years ago was 10%, and last year it was almost 7%. So we are not immune to that. So that one is affecting us very, very hard. So this is why last year we decided that maybe we need to explore other ways to get some extra revenue, and a referendum was one of the options. So, any questions?
I just a couple questions for the bus rapid transit. That is scheduled for 2028. Does that sound right, or is it sooner than that?
26, 27.
28, okay.
It's sooner than
it is.
Yeah,
okay.
because it's sooner than it was expected in the past.
Okay.
Because the city of Madison already got $118 million in federal grant. They are applying for another big chunk of grant money too now, but that one is going to be enough to start the process.
And just for clarity, a bus rapid transit means it just keeps going and going. You can get on lots of buses,
It's a frequency, you
just
have
frequent.
a bus coming after, I think it's 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
And yes.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Mayor, you said that it was approved to McKee Road, correct?
Yeah, this is the plan, yeah.
Okay. There's nowhere to turn around in McKee Road.
No, they're going to go through Brandon, you know what I mean?
By Summit.
Yeah, where is that road?
I think it's branded by
Brandon?
Summit Credit
Summit
Union.
Credit area, yeah.
Oh, so they're going to go beyond McKee then?
Yeah, well,
And turn around
McKee's going to
there.
be the last station, and then they had to make the turn, and they're going to use that.
Okay. I thought maybe they could just, instead of turning there, they could turn on East Sherrill.
Yeah, but that one is going to cost us, because, yeah.
Yeah, I know. We
So
can
this
always
would
keep
say-
saying it.
Yeah, this was my intention is if we are going to do this and invest in this, let's do it right the first time and
Right.
bring it up to Lacey. You know what I mean? Because we know that the city is going to continue growth eventually south. You know what I mean? So, and we are in a very transit corridor, so it makes sense.
And one other question here. For that referendum that based on the survey, do we have some specific plans for east-west routes, or are we just looking at a referendum and getting some money and then plan on what we're going to do?
No, we are already talking to Madison Metro now because we want to connect east, west, and north, south. Okay. So we have an idea how much we have an idea how much is going to cost that additional cost for our Madison Metro services, and this is why we include an amount in the referendum.
Okay, and based on that that referendum amount, and if we don't get anywhere with Madison Metro, can we revisit the Fitchburg flyer concept that was proposed 5 or 10 years ago?
What is that? I don't know.
That is a city bus system, a Fitchburg bus, where we run our own east-west bus system.
That was Steve Arnold. I think he was the mayor, or
Oh,
maybe he was.
yeah, yeah,
Remember
yeah.
that? It
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
It was an inner city transit
Yeah,
sort of
we
system.
need to. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We need to determine how much it's going to cost because no, you need to invest in infrastructure, buses, and staff. And so maybe it's cheaper, much cheaper to subcontract with Madison Metro than
No.
to do that.
So if we had an east-west route with Madison Metro, right now I'm hearing it's Cheryl. It would be Cheryl Drive, maybe?
I don't know the details.
Okay.
Chad is working on that.
Okay. And we can bring Ross into
Yeah, he can.
the city's transportation engineer.
Yeah, they know more the detail. I don't know the
Right.
detail. I know.
Yeah.
I know the numbers.
Yeah. And I think for us, that's nice because it would then connect us with Metro
Mm-hmm.
Plus, which is really nice because we're within, the distance.
Mm-hmm.
But if we did an east-west route on Lacey, that's even better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that I'm still working on the details.
I
So
agree.
there could be many options.
Yeah.
And each option has a different cost.
Price tag, yeah.
So
But there is money, a study. There's money for a study, right?
there is
Again,
money
yeah.
in the study for next year. Yes,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just to study it again. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we have done studies.
I've been through 2 or 3, so maybe one more.
But no, but is the Common Council is aware of the needs to that there is a huge need to how to connect this part of the city with the rest, and especially we want to bring more people to the library and more people to the senior center, or I call it our community center too. And I think this is why we are trying to find ways to how to access to grants or other revenue sources because and it's very important for me to have that to connect the city because we have a lot of people in the north part of Fish Hatchery that some of those kids they don't have, or some of the family don't have a car, and we have a beautiful library here, and there is no that connectivity. You know what I mean? Or some activity, in the senior center, community center that they cannot access. And Southdale is also key because a lot of folks that live in that area, they need some of the services that you provide here in the senior center, community center. So, we are trying to be very, very intentional with our decision about how to, the services that we have here in the civic campus, how people can have access to those. Yes.
So I have a question. I think it's really great. The plan is absolutely great, and it's going to make a lot of people's lives happier, much happier, and much easier. But as you guys are talking about this, and you referred to Metro Plus, I guess my question is there an eye on the fact that you have a certain segment of residents here that wouldn't be able to just take the bus and then get off and walk to the senior center or the library or whatever? Mm-hmm. Is there any consideration about the older adults that can't drive themselves or even walk a block or half a block, what have you, transportation specifically to the senior center? Is there anything in there that we're talking about?
Well, what I mentioned at the beginning, that we include $7,000 in the budget last year for some supplemental transit, for the senior center. I know there is not enough money, but
right,
what I mean. This is something that we have to be, more intentional in the future budget if we have the capacity to increase that amount. But this is something maybe it can be discussed with Jill about, what are those options. But
Right. I mean, if we went with a regular route, the Metro Plus is the door to door. And then people
Okay, so
qualify
that's my question.
right. So people, and it's not income based. It's you qualify physically, and the standards aren't, super high. You have to meet all these criteria. If you're not able to walk a certain distance, you will qualify for paratransit. So that's the door to door. But again, it only is going to follow a regular route. So, having Metro Plus is a really nice option if we can get a regular route. Like I said, if we've got
shared
Cheryl
drive.
or
Well,
Lacey.
I guess that's my question.
Yeah.
So thank you for answering
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
I don't know those specific detail because this is not my expertise. Maybe. Be honest, we are still talking to Madison Metro, discussing options, so we don't know yet what those options will be.
I believe that there's a corridor each side of the main route that people would, if they were inside that corridor, they would be able to be picked up at their front door with Metro Plus.
Yeah, it's a half a mile or 3/4 of a mile that Metro Plus will go outside of the. So then if it came here, maybe people south of here wouldn't be able, obviously, to get Metro Plus, but our density definitely is north, so it would solve a lot of issues, and it would get, folks from South Madison over here. So, yeah, that's
And it's
hopeful.
all about, you make a good point, the BRT is all about density.
Right.
So this is why density stop in McKee. You know what I mean? So we don't have too much density from McKee to Welland Road. You know what I mean? Yeah, we have employers and we have the city campus, but it doesn't count like a big density. So, but this is what if we want to extend, the city had to pay for that extension from our own, funds. So this is what we are evaluating to. How much it's going to cost, because it's a huge investment, you know what I mean? So,
just one more comment. I met with Ross a couple weeks ago just to get some information too. And again, Ross is the city's transportation engineer. I had asked him about, because I know that Oregon is doing an inner city study or transit study. And so he's going to watch closely, and if there's information that he can share, I find that interesting. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for the mayor? Thank you very much.
okay, thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
for
the opportunity.
taking your time so you can go to your other job.
I'm going to my other job.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, next agenda item is,
Well, I just want to talk about this a little bit more.
Okay.
Sorry, you're not off the hook yet. Let's stay on this transportation issue, because that's what we talked about last month is what is this commission, what is our role in advocating for transportation? And again, I think the hardest part is, what does that transportation look like? I have always been a strong proponent for inner city transportation, kind of with Janet. You're just moving around the city, people can call in, it's door-to-door service, wheelchair accessible. The city is looking more towards Madison Metro, which again would get us paratransit. But that's the hard part, and the mayor mentioned the 7,200 that she allocated that, I had advocated for. And then when I started looking at, the real possibility of bringing on providers and subcontracting, I can tell you, the research that I did, Union Cab, a charter is available for $93 an hour. Transit Solutions is $94 an hour. Madison Taxi, you're looking at $70 an hour plus $4.50 a mile. Otherwise, you can look at taxi rides for around $40 round trip per person. So all of these are possible, but the common theme from everyone I talk to is that a lot of transportation is not available until after 2. So, whether we charter a bus, which I think they're more apt to do because their income is a little bit higher, so they can pull in a new driver or something like that. So I've really struggled with, do we start to charter a bus for 2 or 3 people, or we just start to cab people, which is very expensive. So, I'm a little hesitant to move forward quite yet, but it sort of also lays the groundwork. Like, if we went on our own at the senior center and said, we're just going to get a bus, we're going to figure it out on our own, scheduling rides is a huge issue, which is why I've always moved away from the senior center having their own bus. Verona Senior Center, with the help of Epic, just bought a van And I called her and talked to her, and I said, who's driving that van? And she said, staff. And I said, no way am I going to drive a bus or pull a staff person. And so, maybe that's a first step, but I can't even imagine allocating staff or even volunteers, because if a volunteer gets sick, just like the meal routes, when the volunteer gets sick, the staff is driving the routes for home delivered meals. So I really struggle in terms of what we should be advocating for. From a cost perspective, a city perspective, they should be doing transportation that's available to all. It just makes more sense to me. But then to make sure, like Janice, you brought out, it's door-to-door service for older adults. So one size doesn't fit all, but on the commission, I'm really interested to hear, what do you guys think we should be advocating for? I mean, you're taxpayers too.
Yeah, if you went to a hired one like Uber or a cab or whatever, they would have their own driver that way, so that the driver situation would be taken care of.
Right.
But there would still be scheduling for that, wouldn't they? Or would the person at home call up and say, I'd like to have a ride to my doctor's appointment?
We could probably do it both ways. People could call on their own, and I've already talked to the city about having a set credit card on file with whatever transportation service we came to, and then they would just charge that credit card. But we would just have to make sure we have a system in place that we know exactly where people are going, then which kind of says, well, maybe we pull that back to staff to do that scheduling. They call in and say, yeah, I want to come to this activity on this day, and most likely it would run through Susie, who's doing all the scheduling for medical rides. But again, so lots of things to think about.
See, for me, when I've been on the commission for 15 years, something like that, and this has been a problem ever since I first started. I think that and now we're going to do a study, and we're going to do another study, and hopefully get a referendum passed and all this stuff. Maybe doing something like this Uber or taxi is a short-term method of meeting the needs of our people before we get into all these other things that are going to take forever, 15 years so far and counting. Hopefully I'm not dead by the time it passes. But
you might not be driving, so you might need it.
Yeah, I might be needing it. Here's another, as long as we're talking about, about 5 years ago, I went to this major conference downtown Madison where it was a autonomous car taxi service within the Madison metro area. But maybe we could get those guys to do a test project in Fitchburg for seniors. I don't know if a senior would get in an autonomous car, but still, it would be door to door. Boy, that program really, really looked neat to me.
I haven't heard anything. I remember that. There was so much hype about it.
Yeah.
And they were testing
all of a
vehicles,
sudden-
but I haven't heard anything about that. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
But back to the other thing. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but to me, getting something going is important to me.
Question for you. Okay, so I'm the new kid on the block, right? But it sounds like this has been an issue for years. For years. So what are some of the options or some of the things that you've tried in the past? Because I don't think, what the mayor just shared with us is fantastic for the city as a whole. But that's not addressing what our needs are.
Right.
It's not addressing it. And so I'm curious as to what has the commission done in the past 15 years or however long you said it's been?
Well, the commission has done some advocacy letters over time. I will say the Friends, and now I'm going back a few years, probably 15 or 20, over the course of, I would say, a 3 to 5 year period, and I have it all documented, I wrote over $35,000 in grant money to community development block grants for transportation. This funneled through the Friends years ago, and then we contracted on our own with, it actually was Transit Solutions way back then, to allocate a bus just for us. And, you know, people could call in any time. 15, 20 years ago, you know, the demand for ridership was fairly similar, but not quite as high. And then the CDBG grants, you know, it's a lot to track, it's just a lot. And so then the Friends decided, all right, we're just going to pay from our funds and throw in like $10,000 a year to Transit Solutions, and it'll just be more on demand. And so then we did that for several years, and they spent a lot of money, and I can gather that information because I did a whole presentation at a committee of the whole talking about just this. These are the efforts that I've tried over the years. And then I just, you know, as time goes on and maybe the ridership wasn't as high and we just stopped doing it. And then because the city then implemented the first rideshare pilot, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago after a study with a vendor, and it was an inner city transit shuttle. And it just didn't go well. And it didn't go well because I know the folks that were riding it, drivers got lost. Drivers picked up them. They got there late. The fee system was so confusing. People didn't know if they had to pay the driver. Could they pay this way? It came about after the Fitchburg flyer, and they opted to do this inner city transit. And, you know, I've been here long enough. I understand when you roll out a big program like that, if you don't have a dedicated staff and assigned staff to really manage a program like that, it fell apart. I mean, they spent a lot of money doing signs and trying to do pickup locations. So you could walk to this stop, but then if you needed door to door, you had to pay $2 more. Like it was insanely difficult. There was, and it wasn't just for the senior center, it was for the community. There was, and I know firsthand, someone here who worked at the city, their child was trying to get to work at Target. The rides would never come, or they would be very late. And so then they were like, well, why isn't anybody using it? Well, somebody that used it once or twice, I know somebody was trying to come and play ukulele. Well, you know, she was like, they didn't show up, or I got there late. So then people stopped using it, and it got a reputation. So I think they tried that for about a year, and they just said no. And so then the studies started again. So, you know, there's a history of attempts. I think from a commission standpoint, Janice, you know, I haven't directed a lot of advocacy because we had some stuff going on, and then we switched because the city was going to maybe fix it, you know, and that was really exciting to think about. And then the rideshare didn't work. And then within all these years, it's always talk about Madison Metro and, you know, how does that look and where should they go? So I think now is the time for the commission to be more involved because there is lots of rumblings and lots of plans. But what is the plan that you guys think is the best? And again, that's where I struggle. Is it Madison Metro? Is that what we should be saying? Bring it down here. We want an east-west route on Lacey. So therefore, paratransit comes here. We can extend 3/4 of a mile south of Lacey to pick up people. Or is it an inner city shuttle that goes door to door, which is a subcontracted company? Because I don't want to schedule that. I mean, Monona had an inner city transit shuttle that connected with Metro for years and years and years with First Student. And they're now getting rid of it, and I'm not sure why. But that was really highly used by the older adults in Monona. They could just call in and go wherever they needed to go, whether it's the senior center, the grocery store, whatever, within Monona. So anyway, again, I'm looking a little bit for some advice here. Because if we're not all on the same page, then how do we advocate for the right thing?
Absolutely. So I guess
It's complicated.
Pardon me, because I mean this is all new to me. But I guess what's the real issue? what's the real issue? I mean, right now we've got people, coming to the center, maybe, and they're not able to stay as long as they would like, or
Right.
we would like them to stay, etc.
Right.
But what's the real issue then? Beyond that, what's the real issue?
I think personally, from what I, have just watched over the years, the real issue is that people don't have a choice to come to other programs because there is no transportation available. So to me, that's an equity issue. You know what I mean? Now, would they come? Maybe not. And I've talked about that too. What happens if we put all this money and nobody comes? Or what's going to happen is, because I believe people will come when they get used to having transportation available, but it might take a while. And then how much, backlash are we or I going to get? Because, nobody just, now, even Madison Metro, those buses are empty. That's not worth it. Why are we spending that money? So we're going to do the same thing. So that's why I've always advocated this should be a city-wide inner-city transit shuttle, because then maybe more people will use it, older adults, kids, families that can get to the library, and then we have a bigger bang for our buck. But is there an issue, Janice? I think so over the years, but our people are trained. You don't come to anything if you don't have a car that's after 12:30. There's just not an option. Now, if we started to publicize with this $7,200, and again, I'm starting to get nervous because here we are into April, and I don't have a plan for that money. But I also don't want to just use that money willy-nilly. I want to have it planned out. I want a program that's going to say, okay, we did a program. It was a 2:30, 3 o'clock pickup, and nobody came. Well, was it the program? Maybe. Do people just not want to come? I don't know. Then we try something different. This is going to be a trial and error, but I think eventually down the road, the ultimate goal is people come to Fitchburg and say, I can get around the city. Oh, I saw that in the Senior Center newsletter. I'm going to call in and go to that. But nobody knows that now. So can I guarantee we're going to fill a bus with older adults if we start doing a shuttle, from 12:30 to 3:30? I don't know. Not right away.
So that's, when you're saying, at least what does the commission want to do? I think that's a matter of your point of we all have to be on the same page.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, what's the real issue?
Right.
Is that the real issue for each of us?
I don't
Is
know.
that what we all believe? Because otherwise we can put a lot of time and effort into it and not be on the same page.
Right.
And not think that, maybe we shouldn't change stuff. Is it working right now or not? That's $7,000, but how far is that going to go?
Right. Once we start, right, not very far.
Yes, so to me, when the question is, what does the commission want to do? I think we really need to think about that individually, and all of us have to be on the same page if we're going to go out and start advocating for whatever it is that we choose.
I agree.
A good reminder that your question is to us as the Commission for Aging Well, and that is only when I put on my more comprehensive taxpayer hat. Yes. I think the answer to that may be multi-pronged. Because I feel passionately about people being able to get to the library also, and to take care of all other municipal needs. So the answer, at first blush, to me seems, is this a multi-pronged approach that if we had a bus that did go down Lacey, not down Sherrill, but down Lacey, it brings people of a variety of populations to our back door. And to your earlier point, Janice, that not everybody can even walk from Lacey up to this building.
Yeah.
So, but that might meet the needs of half of the people to get to this campus. And a subset of that is the people that will utilize the senior center. And then perhaps there's another prong of that solution that is very targeted at the population that you interact with. And that, and if we could do something person to person, door to door, is so darn expensive. That are there any pockets that we can collaborate with other services or residential facilities that we can do some more communal kind of transportation? And then that third prong being that person, that individual.
I know I had thoughts too, with affordable senior housing. It's easy to say, let's just focus on this right now, because oftentimes they go hand in hand. Folks might not have transportation. I don't want to say always, but we have a lot of captive audiences, at the Highline, at the Limerick, at at the Novation Commons over in town of Madison. What if we did a shuttle? We just used some of that money to try a shuttle, and we did some, real targeted programming. I've thought about that. But again, that's a quick fix now. And I go to Donna's point because I've been looking at transportation for so many years. In the first 10 years, I was like, yeah, we need our own bus. We need to do this. We need to do this. But then as the city started to expand and they put the library here, I'm a little more community minded with the vision of, I understand the community or the city, it's expensive. Transportation is expensive. So if we're going to do the right thing, why not do it for everybody that needs transportation? That would work. But again, one size might not fit all. But if we can get Pure Transit here, we really could start getting more people here. And that is door-to-door service, wheelchair accessible transportation. People call in on their own, so it's not taking any staff time. But Madison Metro is probably the most expensive route to go. So,
Jill, what about, we're not alone. I mean, communities like ours they're all over the place. And are there best practices that we can look at in terms of cost, in terms of transportation reliability, all of those things? I mean, is there a database out there that includes some things that we can beg, borrow, and steal from? I don't know what's the best thing to
right,
do.
that's the problem. And and again, I've done so much research over the years. I've looked at intercity shuttle transportations in Door County, in La Crosse, in Janesville. I've watched the one in Monona. Smaller cities like Stoughton have a shared ride taxi, so it's door to door there. But those are smaller communities. Yeah. And so now that's why I'm watching Oregon, because that's a growing community. And they just built a new library that's, not downtown. It's a little bit outside of town. So what are they looking at? That's always what I wanted for the city, was an inner city transit shuttle. But we've done 2 studies. They tried the ride share, which is an inner city transit shuttle. It didn't work, but I think it didn't work because it was not rolled out appropriately. There was not staff to handle that. It was so confusing collecting money. It was really a disaster. So
see, and I agree when you say best practices, and when the way you said I don't know, and that's it. We don't know, and so the reality is that's why I go back to what are we trying to accomplish? I mean, what's the big thing that we're trying to accomplish? Is it that we're trying to provide door to door for people to be able to come to additional programs? What is it that we're really trying to do? I guess as I'm listening to all of it, I totally agree with the city. I'm a taxpayer as well. Right. In fact, I think that's fantastic to have that transportation out for the city. I really have been very disappointed in the fact that we've got this campus out here and so many residents can't even get over to the library. Kids can't even get over to the library. So I think it's extremely critical that they do what they're trying to do. But I think specific to the senior center, what are we really trying to accomplish? Are we trying to get transportation so we can get those seniors to the center for longer periods of time during the day? Is that what we're trying to do? Or I'm not sure anymore. I'm big on the transportation piece of it. Right. But I'm just not sure what it is that we're trying to accomplish here.
Well, I think that, you're talking about additional programming later, getting to people. But part of the problem is there are so many people that can't get here at all. It's not just extending the program. It's they can't get here at all because of their location. There's no transportation system.
right, unless they come for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, unless they come for lunch and then and participate in some of the and I'm a big advocate about them being able to have that access to programs, you know, and that socialization and all that. And then ongoing learning, et cetera, but I just think that I just want to make sure that we really know what we're trying to target here
Right.
and why.
Yeah, and again, I go back and forth because I think that everybody should have access to transportation, particularly to the city campus. And that's speaking, as a whole, this community. That's what a livable community is. So it's I keep taking off one hat and putting on another. Now, if I'm just advocating for seniors, and what do I want them to do? I want them to have the same option to come here when they want to come here and go home when they want to go home. That's what I want. I don't want it to say, oh, it's only for this program that ends on Friday at 3 o'clock. Right. You know what I mean? Because I can't pigeonhole myself into saying, okay, we only want them to be here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I just want, and again, I just sway back to, I want the city to be able to offer transportation for people who want to go to what they want to go to, and then people will come. So an example would be, we used to do movies after lunch. Movies go till 2:30. Well, everybody that had to ride the bus couldn't ever watch a movie. So I had a room full of people that could drive and go to the movies otherwise, and all the people that really could not have access to go to a movie because they don't have a car, and maybe they can't even afford it now, had to go home. So we stopped because it was so uncomfortable setting up a movie, and then all the people that wanted to stay, and maybe it was only 3 or 4, but that was enough for me to say, this is so uncomfortable that they have to go home, because I don't have any transportation. Now, our nutrition transportation has given a little bit leeway, and they're doing a pickup at 1 o'clock for lunch and learn, and they've always done a 1:30 pickup for bingo. That's always been a set thing. Maybe this money, if they, I don't know, they seem to have contracts at 2 o'clock, like they've got a lot of contracts. Maybe we plug this $7,200 into saying to transit, come at 12:30 and then come at 3. And let's try to program around that. But again, back to Janice's point, Janice, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how to package what I want to see happen, except I just want people to be able to move around the city for whatever they want, to come for an hour, to come for a day, and so do you program first, or do you start doing the transportation? We do it at the same time. And the $7,200 could be that pilot, but then I really need to think through what is the program that's going to attract the people that don't have the transportation. So there's a lot going on here.
Yes.
There's a lot going on.
That's my
And this is how my head has been for 20 years. Because initially it was just for seniors, but again, then the longer I've been here, the more it's growing. The more I'm saying this is a community issue, not just an older adult issue. And why we don't have more public advocating for transportation? Because oftentimes those that need it most are the least likely to advocate for themselves. So.
A follow-up question to continue to play a bit of devil's advocate. Then what is the problem that we'd like to solve? And if we could, early on, jumping to the best scenario, a person could be here anytime, any day, with any ability. Right. That's like utopia. But like in step 1, is it Monday through Friday, or is it 7 days a week? Is it 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., or is it, and to start to focus in might help us be able to identify doable first initiatives to make improvement that can be built on as we move into the future. So that starts to narrow down that conceptual, perfect scenario or place that we'd like to be at. But what's doable?
When I had first applied for the $7,200, that was through, it was the Friends. We did an application to the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative grant for the $7,200, and that was turned down. But I think that is after doing some advocacy behind the scenes, that's why the mayor did put it in the budget. And within that grant application, I had kind of mapped out, based on the expenses that I was looking at, kind of a 2-day-a-week pickup at 3 o'clock. And that would kind of get us to where we
Yeah.
need to be. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that the 7,200 could be our pilot to say,
Yeah.
people love. So, or maybe it's, we're going to do a shuttle at 8:30 because then people can, maybe on Tuesday mornings, they can come and get bread. They can have coffee. They can stay for something. And then we could do another shuttle at 3 o'clock on a different day and just put a program, on that afternoon, like an afternoon of fun. Janice and I were talking about Friday Fun Day or something like that, and just see who we can get.
movie.
So, yeah, a movie, exactly. We got a popcorn maker. We used to make popcorn, and it was fun. But again, when because for a while transit did do later pickups for movies, but then things changed, and then they wouldn't anymore. And that's when I was like, this just doesn't feel good to me. I'm not serving. If I can't serve everybody, it just didn't seem right, particularly something like that. So, anyway.
I wonder, have we done a survey of seniors who have no transportation and asked if there were transportation, would you be coming? Mm-hmm. That might be an interesting thing to me. We're sitting here saying we're trying to get these people who can't get here to get here. Well, what if they don't want to get here?
Right. No, I totally agree. That's why that risk of I'm going to convince the city to give me 20 grand and then nobody uses the bus. But
have we ever done a survey about that?
The last survey we did through the Active Women's Group, it was online and we did paper copies, and there could have been a transportation question in there. I think it'll be interesting to see with the survey that went out with the city in the referendum, there was questions about transportation. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think, if we're looking again at some of the new apartment complexes, that's a real captive audience, because oftentimes you can't reach the people that don't come. But those captive audiences, we could slip surveys under each of their doors to say, would you guys come if we did this?
My hunch is they would say yes on a survey.
Maybe,
But when
yeah,
push
I'd like
comes
the
to
option.
shove,
Yeah,
Right,
action.
right.
It's a
Or
different
maybe,
story.
yeah, but we could at least gather information. My question about what kind of program would they come to? Maybe it's that survey of if you had transportation and we offered movies, game day, educational presentations, would you attend this? But I agree. Yeah, that sounds great. But then, even now you get, 25 signed up for lunch, and then the morning up, I don't want to come that day, so that could be the option too.
Was there a component in that survey that Linda and I think it was Barb?
I got to look back on that and see, yeah. But a survey is definitely an option. So.
It's interesting, we talked about this at our men's group Tuesday.
Yeah.
About transportation system and basically it was a city should have certain components. It should have a post office, it should have a school district, it should have a transportation system that serves the community. And then I said, I used to ride the bus all the time when I used to work down at Overture. But I asked the guys, if we had that transportation system, how many of you would ride that bus?
None.
Oh, yeah, there were a few.
Okay.
And the thinking was they would ride it to support the system, even though they could still drive, because when they couldn't drive, they wanted to have it in place.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting perspective, but most of them were, as long as I can drive, I wouldn't ride the bus.
Right. Well,
Tough.
It is tough, and and I'm not trying to speak very real negatively of the city. I understand this is a huge issue. I'm just trying to align with their initiatives because I think we'll be more successful. But I'm not sure where they're going. And, if you want, I can have Ross, the transportation engineer, come and talk. He might be able to give us more details about what's going on. But we see there's nothing, until 2020, another study. And I'm kind of along the lines of Julia, like how many more studies do we need? It's more of a funding issue, and where does the city want to put that money? But again, I think, we're juggling two questions here. Maybe we use that 7,200 to try to pilot a few thoughts, some smaller programs. Maybe we do a survey. That's not a bad idea, just to see what people are thinking. But it's still, when you step away from the broader view, what role does the commission have in any of this, per se, for older adults? I know what I want to see, but what do you guys want to see as commission members that represent older adults in the community? I'm a believer, build it, they will come. I think there is a need there. Are people calling me up every day saying I can't get here? There's been moments over time where Transit Solutions couldn't accommodate people. People were waiting. They were on the bus for, over an hour, and that is when I advocated very hard for a second bus. It has helped. On Mondays, we got 17 people coming on that bus. Today, I think we have 14. There might be a tipping point where, even the two buses are making two routes. I could get $20,000 from the county. So that's about what we think they're funding our transportation now. Sun Prairie, the Colonial Club, instead of using county funds for nutrition transportation, they opted to get the money from the county, and then they bought a whole fleet of buses. And they pay a driver. So they were able to supplement some of the expense of the transportation through the county funding. So since the county wasn't doing their nutrition routes, they get that fund. So I've looked into that too, but I don't know. Transportation's expensive.
But in that example, they also probably do the scheduling of the drivers, and I hear
they have a full-time driver that does all that.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I mean,
Right.
no matter what, whether it's a volunteer or a full-time driver, people get sick.
That's
and so,
right. Right.
That stuff is going to happen in terms of the backup. Because I know you said,
Right,
well,
right. That's why I don't want to
just
handle
life.
any of that. Like,
Yeah.
I would rather work with a transportation company. Go ahead, Barb.
Well, it seems to me that there's sort of like two levels of transportation. There is the very wheelchair-bound or people that need a lot of help for transportation who could not walk the half block to make it to a central pickup point versus someone more able-bodied. And do you see any value in separating those, or are you considering a single transportation solution that would pick up everybody?
Yeah, that would be what I was thinking, a single solution. But that solution would have to have a wheelchair lift.
Right. And is that a shared cost? Is it completely free? Do people pay on a sliding scale? How would that be arranged?
Well, I think if we subcontracted with a transportation provider, that their vehicles are wheelchair accessible, and that's pretty common. So I don't think there's any additional fees for that at all.
What about Metro Plus?
Metro Plus, if people need Metro Plus, wheelchair accessible or not, they just can't walk very far. There's like a $2 fee.
Yeah, small fee.
It's a small fee. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Barb?
So everybody would pay $2.
Well, so Metro Plus, if that was a route that we went because the regular bus routes moved closer to the city campus, people have to pay. That's a Madison Metro fee. Now, when we did the ride share pilot, there was no additional cost for wheelchair transport. Their vans were handicapped accessible. So whether you needed a handicap ride or a regular ride, it was the same cost. Okay.
Is there any thought of expanding, or I know we've talked about it before, as these apartment and housing complexes are erected, that they bear some responsibility for transporting their residents?
Yeah,
Is that?
yeah, I've talked to the city about that. I guess there's ordinances that would need to be changed. I still think it's a really good idea to charge the apartment complexes a set amount of money, whether their people are using it or not, just making sure it's accessible to them. Because oftentimes when they build apartments, they promote the senior center and they promote transportation. But that's, maybe that's something the commission can pick up. There's, that's a lot more complicated. I think Jay, when he was here a couple times way early on, he mentioned that, because I've talked to, even when Dave Herbst was on the Commission on Aging the last time around, he and I talked a lot about that. Now, these developments are already here and running. Do we go back to them and ask for a donation? I think we could. But I got to know for what. I want to have it. I don't have any problem. I think that's an easy sell. I think it's an easy ask, but I don't have anything set in stone. And is it really going to make a difference in the city's eyes? It's not like they're going to give us $5,000-$10,000. They'll probably give us, maybe $2,000. I really don't know, but I think it's worth pursuing. Just moving down the road. Again, there's park dedication fees. For developers,
Right.
Why can't there be transportation dedicated fees? But I'm not really sure.
That has no transportation system.
Right.
It seems to be that they would have some responsibility to provide that, especially not just for the senior center, but for the entire city complex. It's not just, as we've been saying, people need to come to pay their taxes, to conduct city business. They may want a library. They may want to participate in something at the community center, and that expands and is available for people of all ages. Certainly, these senior apartments aren't going to feel a need to provide for that, but these other services are definitely. They're used as a selling point to attract people to live in these communities, and it seems to me that step up and provide some of the transportation that they know is not available, and it's sort of it's putting all of the responsibility on the city when it should be a shared responsibility.
It sounds like we need data.
Okay, what kind of data?
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of surveys.
Okay.
But I think that you need to get a pulse in the community about, what would they do? Mm-hmm. Would they say, no, I'm not interested? Yes, I am interested. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to need some of that information, as you're about to make a request for this and a request for that. Because right now we're all saying we don't know.
Right, but then we also have the city that does have some initiatives, and so the question is, do we jump on board for that and just keep pushing? Okay, if you're going to do an east-west route, we want to make sure it comes here or here, and that will solve some of our problems. You know what I mean? So I just don't want to go rogue and say this is exactly what I need if we can spend some of our efforts getting behind possibly an initiative that the city's looking at. But I don't disagree. I still want to do a survey, but I don't want to disregard what the city's doing.
I think I would like, if you mentioned about getting the transportation engineer or coordinator, Ross, having him come to one of our meetings and tell us what their thinking is. What Julia said that they were making plans, and you're saying we'd like this, and they're saying maybe. Let's see what they're actually considering before we say, well, let's push this or push that. Because I don't know exactly what their thoughts are.
Right.
And, I'm looking at East Sherrill, and all along East Sherrill, nothing until just before Swan Creek. When you get to Sunflower Road down there, there's no ridership there. It's all fields and stuff. But Lacey, could be, because there's houses all the way along there. But I don't know, originally I thought they were thinking East Sherrill.
Me too.
So let's get that guy in and hear what his thoughts are.
Okay.
At least we can see what direction the city is going. Quite frankly, I think that the city has a responsibility to provide provide transportation, east-west transportation, with Metro Plus. To me, that's the answer. But all we got to do is have it happen. And yes, it's going to be expensive, but so what? Don't go out to dinner once.
I'm not a taxpayer, so I can't speak to that.
I'm a taxpayer, and I can't speak to that. Go ahead. Now I have a
It'll be
question.
interesting to know if they will be able to tease out the data that might be of use to your question to this specific group about our specific commission. I think everybody, I hear a reoccurring passion for the city has a responsibility here. That's not the purview of this commission.
Right.
So if we can tease out, if we can get to the data about the population that we're advocating for. And I don't know if Ross's will be knowledgeable about the survey data that was collected. I think that they did, in that survey, I don't know that they broke out.
Do you mean the referendum
Yeah,
survey?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they had it for transportation.
There
They
was-
said
They
had
did
a
have for
dollar amount.
transportation, but
But it wasn't broken out.
But it wasn't, I don't know if they can tease out the data
Right.
as it relates to senior.
Demographics,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. And we will have that information. I was going to talk about it. Will come out on the 23rd or 24th committee of the whole.
Yeah, that's what
that'll
she was
be-
saying.
Yeah. So
So I have a question though about the survey.
Yeah.
I mean, I get surveys and what have you. There's two things about the survey that I want to say. I think if we're going to do a survey, we want to make sure that we survey far beyond the complexes that are here. There's a lot of folks in the Verona Road area and so
Right.
forth. And
Yes.
so, which oftentimes are missed. And so
Yeah.
that's my one point about who we survey. If we're going to survey, let's survey them all.
Yep.
Okay. And the other thing is in a survey, based on what we get back, we've got to be able to do something with what they tell us.
right.
So, if you're not going to do something about what we receive back, it's better not to do it at all.
Yeah.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
Don't ask. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think your point about they a lot of talk about South Madison feeling disconnected, but the West Side has been disconnected forever. They don't feel connected here. And I know Verona Road, just the geographic, that's my dividing line. But there's a big disconnect over on the West Side for sure.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they belong to Fitchburg. Some of them go to Meadowwood. There's a senior nutrition site up there and stuff. But I think that's a good point, Janice. And so what are we going to do with that data? And again, I think we're weighing out, do we figure out what we want, or do we keep fleshing out what the city's going for, and then we make sure whatever that the city, whatever initiative that they're moving towards is going to be the best for our older adults. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe it's best to have the gentleman come in.
Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had already kind of given him a heads up that he might be second on deck. Okay, so this feels like a productive conversation. Yeah?
Jill, can I just ask two questions?
Yeah.
One, the people that come already, do you have any idea if they would come early or stay later as a population?
No, I mean, that I could ask. I mean, usually, they'll stay later for lunch and learn. They, a handful.
Right, but I mean if it was extended to other programs later. I
Right.
mean, just as a control group, I mean, you already have people coming.
Right. That we can try. That's what, I think Donna was saying, kind of like maybe we're piloting this day of fun and see how many people, or a
Right.
movie, would
Yeah.
people stay for a movie?
Yeah.
So we have an idea of what that is.
And the other question, is it Metro, what's the service that brings them for lunch?
That's just Transit Solutions. That's a county contract.
Okay, is that one you said could possibly be expanded?
Well,
You don't know.
I could contract with them to do pickups after 3. That's when they're most available. But, and that's who I'd like to work with because we know them and they know our area. And so if we were going to implement a program after lunch, it would be.
Do you have a
asking
cost
them.
for that or any figure?
Yeah, it's $94 an hour
Oh, okay.
to contract
I missed
that
that.
bus. Yeah. So we used it once. We did it for the Black History Month program. And I think we had 7 people stay and use the bus, and they were picked up at 3 o'clock. And that was a nice option. So we pilot a few more of those and see. Some of it, a lot of the folks that use the bus now to get here, they get here between 10:30 and 11. Maybe they don't want to go home at 3. Some of them are coming for that. But I think it's worth a try. So we start to use it. And that's what that money was for, to kind of pilot some smaller programs.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, whether, about them staying later than that, it depends on what the program is.
Exactly. That's
At
exactly
the end
right.
of the day, if
Right.
it's something I'm interested in, yes, I will.
Exactly.
If not, no, I want to go home.
Exactly. But to have that option is nice.
Yeah.
So.
But that's kind of what I was getting at, is
Yeah.
looking at the people that come. What
Right.
would keep them longer?
Right.
What would get them
Yeah.
here
Yep.
earlier?
Yep, that's what we need to flesh out a little
Yeah.
bit too. That's why I'm feeling not pressured, but I need to get going because I want to do that. So I'll work on that, and I'll invite Ross to our next meeting, and then we'll keep talking about it. Because I'll tell you what, the budget papers will be out early June.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you lose that 7,000 if you don't use it right away or what?
Well, I think we can advocate to keep it in for the next year, but I need to start using it.
Okay,
So we
just-
can say,
just curious about that,
to me, it's a real small pocket of money
Yep.
that's really important for us to continue to use, and it's in there, so hoping we can keep it. So if anything, there'll be advocacy around that. But hopefully I'll have some numbers to say, yeah, we need to keep this because, if we start doing programs and we just can't hit the mark and nobody wants to stay, I don't know, let's wait and see. So, okay,
Okay,
all right.
shall we move on to the
Yes.
capital improvement plan?
Oh, yeah, I'll be quick about this. So capital improvement plan is any item over $10,000. So for next year, I looked ahead. So the capital improvement plan goes from 2025 to 2034. It's 10 years. So you got to be thinking ahead. What I have submitted right now is looking at kitchen equipment. We have a hot cold well that was $14,000 when we bought it 12 years ago for the nutrition program. So it's going to have a life of about 20 years. So I put that back in there at $16,000. Say around 2030, I think.
What is
something
it
like that.
again?
Oh, the hot cold well. So when the food comes in, we put the pans
Oh, okay,
to
okay.
keep the food hot. So that, that's more of a replacement. I would like to get new dining room tables. So the round tables in there have been in the senior center since 1988. And when I first started, there was 14 or 15 of those round tables in there. Now we're down to 8 or 9, and it's because over the years, as that dining room became more multi-purpose, or we needed that space, I needed square tables because people wanted to play cards, and we could only set up 6 or 7 card tables in the Swan Creek room, and we were finding we were setting up and taking down. So, now the corner of the dining room has the square tables. They're 32 inches, and so now they play chess out there, they play cards out there, they play cribbage out there, and so it's really nice. But what we're finding is that room is even more multi-purpose. Now we were able to put an overhead projector. Janice is having lunch and learns in there. I would like to have all square tables because then those round tables, first of all, are 175 pounds. They're hard to move. They're hard to accommodate any kind of presentation. They're hard to just relocate people in that room. They take up a ton of space. So I want to replace all the tables with 42-inch square tables. So that came to about 15,000. Now you're looking at $600 a table, when you look at a commercial kind of table. And then I looked at replacing all of the dining room chairs in about 10 more years, maybe 12 more years. And that's a lot of money. That was closer to 30. And looking at chairs that aren't fabric, we got those chairs after the addition in 2012. I don't know why I picked fabric. They were pretty. But as that room is so multi-purpose and rentable, and we need something that's just more durable. And anyway, so giving those chairs a life of about 20 years, money went into that. So, and then the last thing we talked, when we had extra ARPA funding, you heard a lot about the American Rescue Plan Act and funding. They asked, what's your dream? What's your, if you could do anything down there, with some ARPA funding, a one-time project. And I said, I'd love to expand the kitchen. Because right now, as we've got 50 home-delivered meals, and Jim can speak to this, you're back in the corner behind the fridge, you're packing food here, packing food there. What if we could knock out a wall and expand it? So I put it in there in the ARPA wish list at about $250,000. What do I know about construction? Nothing. But anyway, so they didn't take it out. So then what happens is it pops back into the CIP using ARPA funds. And so I'm actually meeting with finance today about it. I said, I'm going to, this is silly for me to do a project right now. I need to delay this project and really look at the cost. And also, too, at the same time, the city is doing a strategic plan. The city is looking at remodeling City Hall, possibly building a police station, and that I need a long-range vision for that kitchen. And I'm hoping, because this is the first time in my years that the city has ever done a strategic plan, looking at, boy, let's just get all departments moving in the same direction. Maybe the use of that building isn't going to be what we think it is. So in the CIP, I just requested a delay of project until we have more information to move forward. But what it is it's a starting point for discussion. So there's no money. I mean, I don't think we'll be allocating any money right now. But I'm the CIP makes you look down the road. And so that's what I'm trying to do is look down the road. What's that building going to be? Who's going to be in there, in 10 years? Are we still going to rent it? Or is it going to turn into something else? So that was in the CIP, but it's getting pushed out. So that's the CIP.
How many more years are left on the dishwasher in the kitchen?
Well, we looked into that. The dishwasher doesn't really. We can get a dishwasher for probably $8,000 or $9,000, so it wouldn't be a CIP
just
item.
Underneath, huh?
Right,
Okay.
so that's a budget item because we looked at that. We looked at even a commercial refrigerator, and those are even under $10,000.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I could put 15 in there, but so that would be more of a budget item, which to me is a little frightening because I don't have an $8,000 budget to replace a piece of equipment. But obviously, there's got to be some contingency funds somewhere if something big like that blows. I know that the last time the dishwasher broke, the Friends bought a new one. I think it was around $7,000. Yeah, so.
Okay.
All right.
Report from the Senior Center Friends.
Okay, push my button here. Of course, the big item is that the pancake breakfast is going to be held Sunday, April 21st from 8 to 12, and we will be setting up the day before. Volunteer sign-up has been going very well. Mandy's got almost the whole sheet filled up, but we can always use a few more people to help because there's, things happen, people can't come or whatever. Yeah. So if anybody would like to sign up, feel free to give Mandy a call. We are having a Mayflower representative coming on May 2nd at 10:30, and she is going to do a pre-trip meeting for the people that are going to Holland, Michigan. We have 30 people going on that trip. And then she will also do a presentation on the 2025 trip to Canada in autumn, and that will be in the Fitchburg room at 10:30 on May 2nd. The travel site has been updated on the Fitchburg Senior Center Friends page. And let's see, then some of the money things here. The fees for the nutrition site assistant have been paid to the city from our account, so that is taken care of for the whole year for the 15 to 20 hours that Chris will be working. And some of the other payments out have been $26.32 for a medical alert badge for someone, one person. There's also been a $25 scholarship given for foot care for one person. And then there's also been a $250 fee for RN patient advocacy paid for one person. And I think we're going to be seeing more of those type things in the future too. Even, we talk about transportation. We don't have family, a lot of people that don't have family members or friends that can transport them here. They also do not have family and friends that can advocate for them when they go to doctor's appointments to make sure they tell the doctor the things that they need to tell the doctor, to be sure to make sure they're taking the right meds and that they know that their medications have been changed. These patient advocate RNs keep files on people like that they take back and forth and help these people out so that they can stay in their homes and not have to be put into a home someplace else that they don't want to really go to. So those are things that we're going to see a lot more money going out, I think.
So just the clarity about the patient advocate program's been going on for a few years. We contract with a woman who has her own business, and she gives us quite a cut per hour. But what clients are referred to that through the caseworkers when it looks like, we can't accompany people to the doctor's office, and sit there and listen. But like Gail mentioned, if somebody doesn't have family and they have a very complicated medical situation and they're going to come home with all of these instructions, we will contract with the patient advocate to accompany them to the doctor. She hears everything that's said, and then she shares it with whoever is the caseworker working with that client. So then we have an idea of what's going on and what needs to happen. So it's been a real plus to have the friends pay for this and to have this advocate to work with for those reasons. So thanks for that.
So the only other thing is just to be sure you come to the pancake breakfast. Yeah. We had 600 people last year, and I worked in the dining room, so I kind of kept looking, and no one ever waited more than 5 minutes. So I think that might be a concern of some people, that you're going to stand in line outside and down or whatever. But we've never had much of a wait, and the tables get cleared off really quickly, and people have places to sit, so it's not like you have to wait to get your food or get your table. So everybody come.
And they did do flyers in Spanish. I think the yard signs were already made, so those aren't in Spanish, but we identified a lot of businesses that, like Luna Grocery Store, were more Hispanic. There's a bakery, and so they've done a great job of trying to spread the word that way. So thank you, friends. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Director's report.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I talked a little bit about the referendum. Again, none of us know the results of that. So those results will be coming out at the committee of the whole. And I think it will be helpful to know what it's all going to tie in with the budget. And so it'll be interesting to see. As I mentioned, we're doing the first citywide strategic plan, so all employees have been asked to fill out a questionnaire, and then department heads will be meeting with the consultants one-on-one. And from what I hear, they're hoping to have strategic plan results wrapped up by late August, maybe early September. Let's see, I'm working a little bit behind the scenes on new program registration because the city has a possible option where we can tie in to a software that they use where all the programs can be paid online. We're kind of paralleling the recreation department to see what they're using too, because right now Dave's really doing all the development of our registration stuff, and it's taken a lot of time. So doing some research on that. I've talked to you guys about the inclusion toolkit. We are currently forming a committee that's going to be led by Carol Shello. I've been pronouncing her name wrong. And what we want to do is bring together folks from different backgrounds to work on this inclusion toolkit, and it's a guide that's been developed specifically for senior centers, and it just covers all kind of areas from staff training. What does your facility look like? What kind of programs do you offer? Do you have a diverse volunteer pool? And it just goes through all these sections. And then this group, so we're looking for 5 to 7. Right now we have 3. I have a gentleman who attends the Hispanic group who's bilingual, so that's going to be very helpful. I have a woman who come forward who is Black, and we have Carol who runs the lesbian support group, and then we're looking for still a couple more people. So the goal is to start meeting in May, and they'll meet once a month and then bring recommendations back to myself and my staff to say, here's some things you guys are doing well, here's some things you need to work on. And then we're hoping next fall it all wraps up, and in a celebration we'll do a big kind of multicultural kindness fair or something. So that's yet to be determined, but so making some progress there. And I look forward to having them look over a lot of stuff we're doing. I think it's overdue. Otherwise, we're looking at doing a patio reopening, not grand opening, but kind of a reopening in May. Volunteers putting together some new furniture, hopefully this week. And so we want to kind of reopen that patio and let people know it's there to use. Lots of other stuff going on in the newsletter. And I think that's it.
Okay, any questions for Jill? Okay, our next meeting will be May 9th. Put that on your calendar. And if there are no other announcements, there are none.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Pam's last meeting.
Oh,
So I
goodness.
want to thank her for serving the last 3 years. Yeah, so if you have a few words.
Well, I really appreciate having the opportunity to serve and be part of this committee. I've loved it. I haven't had as good of attendance as I would like. I have a lot of personal things going on. So for right now, I'm going to step back. But I told Jill, in the future, there may come a time I would love to come back at another time.
Good.
But thank you. Thank you very much. You're doing good work.
Okay, we'll miss
More
you.
work to do, but
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Okay.
Okay, any other announcements? If not, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I would move to adjourn.
somebody.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.